All right, welcome back. So let's take you to this story. Residents of Orange Farm in the south of Joburg say the rise in gang violence in the area is concerning, especially because pupils are also said to be orchestrating these incidents. In one instance, a group known as the 50s gang is accused of killing a man, sparking violent retaliation from the community. So we're going to unpack that story now, and for that we are joined by chairperson of the Gauteng Community Safety Portfolio Committee, Dr Bandile Masuku, as we look at that issue coming out of Orange Farm, where in fact just yesterday this story also catching the attention of the community. A man there, 50 years old, his body found there on the scene with multiple stab wounds, expected or believed to have been an attack that was carried out by, again, that group that is known as the 50s gang. The chairperson of the Gauteng Community Safety Portfolio Committee joins us now. Dr Masuku, a good evening to you. Thank you so much for giving us your time. It seems that we're talking a lot about gang violence in Orange Farm, and it is growing at a rapid pace. But what is especially startling is how incredibly violent some of the incidents coming out of Orange Farm really have been. I mean, your understanding on the information that you're being given as to why we're seeing this much violence in that community.
Yes, it is a disturbing pattern that we have seen. It's only not even the pattern that we have observed in the communities. It also involves, school children, the learners themselves. And it's something that is quite worrying, and it's something that we are going to raise with the provincial commissioner going forward, because there's something that needs to be done, in particular in Orange Farm. In a year ago, we did visit the police station, and there was a new police station commander, and there was some visible sense of improvement. But I think the situation is no longer improving; it's deteriorating, because the concerns from the community still come thick and fast in terms of the police not being pretty much responsive.
Yeah, again, though, the actions from the police would be responsive. So after the violence has already occurred, I think one of the things that obviously your interest would be in is the dynamics of the community that allow for gangs to be able to infiltrate learners and school pupils. What those dynamics are, and where the gaps are that need to be plugged for the sake of avoiding the violence, instead of also just speaking of the responsiveness of police after the fact.
Yes, I think it's a multifactorial issue. It requires the whole society and the community to get involved, because most of the issues also emanate from what we call initiation schools, where these young boys are initiated into manhood in early ages, and they are also taught these gangsterism customs and so on. And when they come back from that initiation school, they come back to terrorize the community. And I think it's something that we need to get the community to understand, that we are not anti-culture or anti-customs, but it's important that these initiation schools don't really go in a way that they recruit for gangsters in the townships, because that's what we have observed in the areas in Orange Farm and in the Sidibeng area.
In Drizik section there in Orange Farm, you also saw an incident where there were 3 men that were killed around the 1st of September, so much earlier on in the week. And when officers came to that scene, they were pelted with stones by the community in and of itself. Again, we have structures like the Community Policing Forum for a reason, to bridge the gap between police and community. Is that simply not working?
Yeah, it's not sufficient, it seems. And when you see the incidences of vigilantism, you'll also know that it is a sign of lack of trust by the community on the side of the police. And it's something that we are quite worried. It preoccupies us as a committee, that we always have to build the bridge between the communities and the police. But it's something that needs to be done, and it must be done urgently in making sure that we make amends between the community and the police in Orange Farm, because the complaints, as I've said when we started the interview, they're coming thick and fast, and they are becoming worrying with loss of life that is coming to it, and with young people, the learners, being involved.
Is there a conversation that needs to take place between community safety and the Department of Basic Education to find, some sort of solution? And I wonder what that would look like. Of course, there's a question about what security in our schools does need to look like, and again, how much security in a school is too much security and does not allow for a free environment for learners. Where's the balancing act, and what conversations need to be happening with community safety and DBE?
Yeah, remember last year we did have in a conversation what we call a forecast intervention study that we undertook as both the committees of community safety and of basic education, where we looked at the enforcement and the compliance by the department in terms of school safety regulations. And we did find, true to form, that the school safety regulations are not enforced properly in most of the schools. And most of the schools, in particular in Orange Farm and in Sebokeng, we found that the securities were lax. But the most important thing that we found is that the community themselves are the ones that influence the violence amongst the learners. And it's schools that are found in spaces and places where there's violence, gang violence, that you find that the problem of safety becomes an issue. So it's a matter that the community, we need to continue to engage with them to make sure that we need to protect the project of education. We need to protect the future of our, of our learners, and it's something that must be done urgently.
Again, there's the issue of what kind of innovations we have seen going into schools. So much earlier on in the year, there was talk of e-panic buttons that were given to teachers. Any updates on whether or not those have actually helped learners and teachers feel safer? So the updates that you receive from Gauteng Education, where that is concerned.
Yes, it's one of the mechanisms that we are actually, some of the parameters that we are monitoring. You'll remember that there's also the installation of CCTV cameras in the most affected schools that were found to be problematic in the province. And we also saw the deployment of the crime prevention wardens in the schools and patrollers in the schools. And in those spaces, we've seen some improvement in terms of school safety and the compliance in terms of regulations. But as I've said, this conversation is bigger than the schools themselves. It requires the whole community to be engaged to protect the project of education and protect the future of our learners.
Yeah, seamless platforms that are available for communities to speak out. Surely if you are living in a community where gangsterism is rife, there is quite a lot of fear as well in being able to speak out around the challenges in your community. How we improve the mechanisms for communities to be able to say, well, this is where we go, where we can safely report crimes in our communities, where we need to improve that. Final thoughts from you.
Yeah, I think it's an important aspect. We need to continue with our efforts to build the trust of the communities. We'll descend upon Orange Farm as a committee to find out exactly what could have happened and what are the lapses that have happened in the whole system, because they presented a brilliant plan to us a year ago, which we thought that it was yielding some positive results. And it's something that we need to continue to engage them and hold them accountable, including the police themselves, in terms of their own inaction and not acting on time when they are called.
Yeah, we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much for speaking to us again on what is increasingly a concerning issue coming out of Gauteng, and certainly more specifically in Orange Farm. Gauteng Community Safety Portfolio Committee Chairperson, Dr Bandile Masuku.